Okay, let us make an official start. Hi everyone, I'm Adam Kilmartin, the Relief Pool Coordinator from the Upper North Island, and hopefully my team all know me by face by now. It has been almost 3 years. This is Nicole Butler. She is one of the PSMs up here, and she's going to be taking us through the webinar tonight. So tonight's presentation is on providing positive guidance, and that's, as I mentioned in my email, the most important policy for our relievers to know. I've been to Nicole's presentation on this twice in the last couple of years, and I find it to be the most interesting of any of the ones that I attend. There you go. No pressure, Nicole, no pressure. As I mentioned before, if you have any questions as we're going through the presentation, do yell out, do type into the chat. We will make sure that we flag that as a question, and when we can take a pause, we'll try and come back and answer it. And if all else fails, we'll come back at the end of the webinar to answer those questions. Okay, so now I will pass it over to Nicole and we'll get this presentation started again. The video once more will become very small, and we'll have the and the presentation will become the main focus there. All right, thanks for coming everyone, and let's get started.
Thank you. Are you changing my screen?
No, oh, you can rotate it this way if you like.
No, you're going to make me small.
I'll make you small.
Great. Okay, we'll just wait a couple of seconds till the presentation comes online. Thank you very much to everybody for coming. I know that you're trying to put your children to sleep. We won't be long. We'll try and get through it. First time I've ever done a webinar, so please bear with me. I'm used to feeding off people, so I'm not used to just hearing my own voice for so long. So let's get started. So tonight's session, as Adam said, was around positive guidance for BestStart relievers. I obviously appreciate that some of you have been relievers for quite some time maybe, and this is a refresher for you, while the rest of you might have only recently started with BestStart and become a reliever. So I hope you get whatever you're intending to get out of the presentation this evening. So we'll start off with what is positive guidance. So positive guidance refers to how teachers guide children's behaviour at the centre. So it includes setting expectations for the children and is visible for both parents and children to regularly revisit. So in other words, the positive guidance practices that happen within a centre shouldn't be secret. They need to be displayed, and everybody who comes into the centre, whether they're a parent or whether they are a teacher, a reliever, a visitor, they should be available for them to see what happens within a day-to-day basis. So a positive guidance procedure is a written policy on practices for child's behaviour. These need to meet the requirements set out in the Education Regulations for 1998. So BestStart has a positive guidance policy, and under the positive guidance policy sits the positive guidance procedure. This is specific to the centre, and every year it gets reviewed with the permanent teaching team to make sure that they're still following practice and there don't need to be any updates. So what are we legally bound to do? So according to the Ministry of Education, all early childhood education centres must comply with the range of government legislation relating to the ways in which adults should behave towards children within their setting. The legislation also includes a range of practices which are considered unacceptable behaviour. So with regards to unacceptable behaviour, this includes, but is not limited to, the fact that the regulation states that no child is to be subjected to any form of physical ill treatment. And I hope you're all saying at home, oh, well, of course not, because that's what we want to hear. Solitary confinement. So solitary confinement refers to isolation or putting children in timeout. It's not acceptable to isolate a child, whether it be in another room or a different area of the centre. Immobilisation. So if a child it's his bedtime and he's lying on the bed and he's moving around, it's not okay to put your arm over a child so that they cannot move. That's considered immobilisation. And deprivation of food, drink, warmth, shelter or protection. And so the main one here is really food. What's important to remember is it's not okay to say to a child, if you're not going to listen, you're not going to get afternoon tea. Or if you carry on behaving like this, there's not going to be any lunch left over for you. Or it's somebody's birthday, you're not going to be entitled to any birthday cake or birthday fruit if you're doing Healthy Heart. So that's something really important to remember with regards to positive guidance. And children, obviously, again, will not receive any form of corporal punishment, verbal abuse, or at no time be left unsupervised. And hopefully you don't see any of that practice within our BestStart centres. So what this looks like, positive guidance needs to be by means of praise and encouragement rather than blame, harsh language, belittling, or degrading responses. So in other words, praise, really well done for picking up all those blocks, Sammy. I'm so proud of you. What a great job. Or thank you so much, George, for listening. So great to see you doing that. Or, you know, you see two children and they're arguing over a toy and one of them says, stop it, I don't like it. Fantastic to see you using your words. Positive reinforcement to support them with their behavior. Obviously, belittling or degrading responses, that would be something like, if a child has wet their pants, they're toileting, or maybe even they've been toilet trained for a few months and they got carried away, they were playing in the sandpit, they're 4 years, 9 months, and they wet their pants. It's not okay to embarrass them or humiliate them. Accidents happen. You know, adults, children, well, hopefully we don't wet our pants too much, but, you know, accidents do happen. It's important that we don't embarrass them and just get on with the job of changing them so that they don't feel degraded in any way. In order to treat every child with respect and dignity, adults need to be aware of children's strengths and understand that they have reasons for their actions by giving each child regular and honest feedback that is positive. We know that children thrive off positive behavior, of positive attention, and often any attention to a child is better than no attention. So sometimes children will even try and get attention by doing behavior that they know is not acceptable. Oh, and there's a question. Is that what it is? Mm-hmm. Okay, we have a question. Sorry, as you can see, I get quite excited the first time I've done this. But what if they don't answer to morning tea call initially, but want food later? So that would be all about the age, depending on the age of them. So if the person who wrote that would like to clarify, but if you've got a 2-year-old, and I presume you'd be doing rolling morning tea, and if you've got a 2-year-old and you know they've been at the centre since 7 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock your rolling morning tea starts, or your set morning tea starts, and by 9:30, you've spoken to the 2-year-old 2 or 3 times. You've tried every kind of convincing strategy. You've told them there's some yummy parklets or something. Come and have a look. And they still don't want to come in, but you know that they've been there for 2 or 3 hours. You would try and convince them. If they still don't want to go, that's okay, because let's face it, we do feed children at regular intervals within the day. So actually 2 hours, if they had breakfast, then they might not need morning tea because they could have had, you know, a big breakfast at home. If they are older, say they're a 4-year-old and they know, oh, I see that the person's written that she was 3 years old, so he or she. So it depends on the reasoning. Good now? Oh, awesome. Thank you, Jackie. About morning tea discussion.
Okay, cool. That's 3 minutes. What about when child A hits child B? There we go. Another question. Do you want to answer that one now?
Yeah, we've got another question, and it's, what about when child A hits child B, but child A tries to, oopsie, it's gone, run away? Okay, so where are we going to go from now? Now we're going to talk about how we guide children's positive behaviour. So I might not answer any of those questions. I don't know if you can flag them, Adam, because I might answer them in my discussions coming forward. That's what I read one of those questions. So with regards to morning tea, Priya's asked, what if the child is asking for morning kai later when it's already over? So that's just reiterating, if you know, giving them that warning, telling them, you know, it's 5 minutes until morning tea's finished, making sure, you know, giving them that option to find out if they really don't want anything. Maybe you could say, do you want to come and have a look? And then if you see something you like, you might change your mind. If it's already over, it's over, and you then explain to them. Children learn pretty quickly, so the first day or so they might be a bit confused as to why it's not an open kitchen where the restaurant just cooks their meals on, you know, on demand, but they'll soon realize that there's time frames during the day. So how do we guide children's behavior? So guiding children's behavior requires a clear understanding of the centre's positive guidance policy and procedure. So strategies for managing situations which are compatible with the policy and procedure. So I just wanted to mention here that No centre is the same with regards to the dynamics within the room of a centre, due to different staff, different socioeconomic situations, and different children. So it's really important that you find out what the positive guidance policy and procedure is for each of the centres that you go to. Strategies for managing situations which are compatible. So making sure that whatever the centre practices around their procedures, you follow it. It's important when guiding children that we have an understanding of and a liking for children and for each individual child. And I say that tongue in cheek because obviously if you're all relievers, we know that you're going to have a liking for children, but it's more about understanding them, understanding their ages and stages and what to expect, but also understand that an age and stage is dependent on a particular child. Just because they're 3.5 doesn't mean they're able to use their words. So ongoing and regular review and evaluation of the use and effectiveness of practices for child behaviour. So that's a teacher registration requirements that we need to make sure that we follow. So the questions there. Okay, I'll answer what if the child's asked. Okay, I'll answer that later on. I think you'll see that I'll answer it in one of the later slides. So it's really important that as adults, we have a good feeling of self-worth. We feel alert and we're not tired. We enjoy working with children, again, tongue-in-cheek expression. We have a sound understanding of effective positive guidance strategies. So that's what we're going to talk about further on. But again, I'd like to mention here, please ask your permanent teachers that are in the rooms that you're working with. So make sure that if there's children with additional needs and you've noticed, ideally when you're inducted with your positive guidance procedure, with their positive guidance procedure, and they should be discussing any individual children with you that have additional needs and have RDPs. If they don't, because they're too busy or they've just forgotten it, make sure if you notice something with a child, you just go and chat to them and say, look, I've noticed that little Harry is, constantly seems to be following this younger child around and he seems to be, trying to get his attention in a negative way. What do you guys do with that? So don't be afraid to ask questions.
What's an IDP?
An IDP is an independent development plan. And so that's children with additional needs where teachers have found that the child has additional needs. Either it could be something like speech, it could be, aggression, it could be a wide range of things. And so teachers have developed a plan. Sometimes it's along with your speech therapists or with Ministry of Education as to how to support this child. So they might use different strategies that they would use with other children. So we had a particular child, my history is, sorry, I was a centre manager and a teacher for many years at a BestStart centre. And we had a particular 4.5-year-old who was on the autism spectrum. And we had to have a particular positive guidance strategy that teachers had to partner up. So if he was doing something that was undesirable, biting a child or biting a teacher or kicking somebody, the first teacher would go and try and intervene, but this child would never settle with the first teacher. So we had a strategy, we would support each other, and within the first minute or so, the first teacher would step back, give this child space, and then go back and speak to him, and he always settled for the second teacher. That lasted extremely well for about 6 months until there was an incident where one of the teachers went, tried to stop him from biting another child, and she hung around a bit too long, and he turned around and said, so when's the second teacher coming? He had figured out our strategy, so we had to change our course. But, that's what we have to do as teachers, think on our feet all the time. It's important to have good communication and interpersonal skills for working with children, with their families, and with their colleagues. So it's really important as teachers that we listen to children, especially when working in the older children age group, the preschool age. Often as teachers, and we're all guilty of it, we'll see something happen, in the distance, and we'll go up and make an assumption about what happened. But actually, often the story is very different. And as a PSM, I often see this because I'll be sitting observing and a teacher won't have observed what happened and will come over and talk to the children and presume that it's little Johnny who's now caused this other child to cry because little Johnny is the one who tends to instigate incidents. And actually, little Johnny is not the one who instigated this time, but the teachers don't actually listen to what the children have to say. So just stop and listen, and often they'll explain. So we often don't need to jump to conclusions when we do. And the same thing with regards to talking to colleagues. feel free to ask them. Don't feel like, oh, I can't ask too many questions. It's my first day relieving here. As a teacher, they would rather their relievers ask them if they're unsure about something than try and muddle their way through, and feel free to ask questions. Another important point as an adult is that we need to remember to have a sensitivity and an understanding of cultural differences and needs. That's really important in Auckland because we are so culturally diverse, and I'm sure your other regions are as well. Something that I learned soon after moving to South Auckland. Growing up, I was always told that I had to be respectful and look my elders in the eyes when they were talking to me and make eye contact. It didn't take me long to find out that actually for some cultures it's disrespectful for children to look you in the eyes. So as soon as I understood that, I changed the way I was thinking and the way I reacted to children. And I think that really helped me quite soon on in my career as a teacher. And with regards to that, sorry, I'll just go back to that. Sometimes as teachers, we are really quick to judge. You know, our job is hard and we work 40 hours a week and it's a busy environment, and we're very quick to judge parents like, oh, they're just lazy. Why aren't they toilet training their child at home? He's already 3.5. He should be toileted. Or, oh, I can't believe mum dropped him in today and he was eating chicken nuggets for breakfast. My best advice that I got from somebody when I was still early in my training and as a qualified teacher is, you actually don't know what goes on at home, so don't pretend you do. You know, we don't know. Everybody's got a battle, and there's a reason why people do things, and it's not our job to judge. We need to remember that the customer is always right, and if a parent, for whatever reason, doesn't place an emphasis on their child putting on their own socks and shoes and they nearly fall, that's okay. We can support that child with gaining independence at the childcare centre, but just remember not to judge. Everybody's got a backstory. So as a reliever and a teacher and anybody who's working with children, it's important to look out for signs that children are overwhelmed. So if a child's protesting, thrashing about, screaming, spitting, self-harming, so scratching themselves, some children bite themselves, all of these are symptoms of the fact that they're feeling overwhelmed. So some children sulk, some nag, some complain. Then, of course, as they get older, the name calling, the I'm not going to be your friend. Once they turn 3.5, obviously this button clicks over that the girls don't want to be friends with anybody. Biting, bullying, refusal to do something. So this was one of the examples, was the child refusing to do morning tea. So when a child's showing any of the above behaviours, the best advice I can offer is give them space. You know, sometimes children just need time to have their moment. We won't use the tantrum word, but let them just have their space. I don't know about you, but if you're having an argument with your spouse and you just want him to drop it and he's going on and on and on nagging, you just want to be left alone, but children can't voice that. And often I'll see a teacher going up to a child and, you need to come with me, you need to say sorry. It's not okay what you've just done to Jeremy. Come and say sorry. Come on, let's go, come and say sorry. All I can suggest is to say, leave them, give them space. Bend down next to them while they're screaming or protesting, while they're upset, and say, I can see, Johnny, that you're really, really unhappy. I'm going to wait over there by the stairs, and when you're ready to calm down or would like to talk, I'd like to chat with you. Because when teachers get into trouble is when, say, for example, and I know one of the questions earlier was talking about a child who hurts another child and we expect them to go and say sorry. And as teachers, we're obviously concerned about every child's well-being. And if you see a child getting bitten or scratched or hurt or pushed, our immediate reaction is actually that's not okay and that child needs to say sorry. But we're not going to get what we want from that child if that child is still angry. He needs time. So the first thing we do, if there's an altercation between two children, make sure the child who was hurt is okay. Let the other child run off. He hasn't got away with anything. Go and make sure the child who's been hurt has the ice pack, has the cuddles, make sure he's okay. Go over to the child. If he's still angry, give him a few moments, tell him you'd like to talk to him. He'll come to you within 2 or 3 minutes when he realizes he's not getting attention and he hasn't got a teacher standing over him saying, you need to come say sorry. It's not okay what you did. That's not okay. You need to come and say sorry. Look how you see. He's not listening. He's just in his own space. Leave him. Once he is calm, go down and sit next to him in an unthreatening way and say, you know what you did wasn't okay. What do you think we should do about it? Another thing I'd like to suggest is children, even at 3 or 4, like to be in control. So you know that he needs to go and say sorry, but ask him. Let him think that he's the boss. Us teachers like to always be the boss, but let him think that he's the boss and say to him, what do you think we should do? I can guarantee you 95% of the time, if you say to a child who's hurt another child, once he's calmed down, if he's hurt another child and you say to him, what do you think he should do? He knows he needs to go and say sorry. And so you say, well, that's a really good choice you've made. When you're ready, why don't we go over and say sorry to him? Because when incidents happen is when teachers try and get the child to say sorry too soon, and maybe they hold the child by the hand, because we never remember hold the child by the arm. At no stage, I'll throw that in here now. Remember to please always guard a child by holding their hand, not their arm. Guard them by the hand, or even better, hold out your finger and say to them, why don't you come with me, so that they feel like they're in control. They're holding your finger, you're not holding their hand. And 95% of the time they will come over and they will apologize because they know right from wrong. Give them the choice, let them think that they're winning, and you'll be sweet. And again, if you're struggling, if you feel like the child's not listening to you, as a reliever, one of the greatest advantages, you can ask for help and ask somebody else to take over. So you can say to a teacher, if you're in an area inside and you're alone with this child, keep yourself safe, keep the child safe, and just say, oh, look, can I swap over for you? Little Jeremy is not keen to move. Keep yourself safe at all times. Another message to take home. So this might answer some of your positive guidance questions coming up. So for infants, when supporting children with positive guidance, so if a child's about to go in and bite another child on the head, always make sure you include the infant's name first, because this is likely to catch their attention. So by saying Mary as she's about to take a chunk out of little Fred's head, that will catch her attention, hopefully stop the act if you're too far away to be within arm's reach. And then another important message for infants is make sure your tone and your voice are consistent in conveying the message. So what I mean by that is, it's no use saying, oh no, Sally, you're so silly, don't pull your friend's hair. If you're saying it with a smile on your face and in a jovial way, Sally doesn't understand what you're saying. So make sure that if she's pulling a child's hair, say, Sally, that's not okay to pull so-and-so's hair, and make sure you haven't got a smile on your face, because she'll obviously look at your non-verbal cues as she doesn't have a good understanding of your words and think, oh, this must be a game. I can carry on doing it. So for young children, this is toddlers and young children, really important to intervene appropriately and as necessary. So again, it's important to look at the child at the positive guidance procedure, because some preschool centres might be really strong on encouraging children to use their own self-control and their own boundaries and giving their children a choice. So they might really say, actually, because the children are, 4.5, we like them to problem solve. So stand back and watch, but don't jump in too quickly. Ask and listen. So again, that's just what I was saying. Listen to what the children have got to say and ask questions. Ask them. They'll be able to give you answers more often than not. And even a toddler will be able to explain to you what's happened. So state the required action clearly, avoiding a focus on the undesired behavior. So with regards to that, give the children a choice. This is what I was mentioning earlier. So let them feel like they're winning. So for example, if a child's throwing blocks, you go over to the child and say to them, I don't think that's what we're supposed to do with the blocks, but why don't you either build with the blocks, or I know if you want to throw, we can go outside and throw the ball outside. So again, they're thinking, I've got a choice now. Which one would I rather do? But you're letting them think they're in control, but you getting rid of the undesirable behavior, because you've told them these are the expectations. You can either build with the blocks, or if you want to throw, go and throw the ball outside. So again, they feel like they're in control. It's important for teachers to provide acknowledgement and encouragement to the child for not only carrying out that action, so even if this is because the adult has taken control. So in other words, if you see James hitting another child, you say, and you talk to him, you say, and you say to him, oh, I really love how you're keeping your hands to yourself, James. So you compliment him. You've pulled him up earlier about keeping his hands to himself. And 3 or 4 minutes later, give him that acknowledgement and encouragement. Say to him, thank you so much for doing that. What we found over the years in the teaching profession is that we'll often have a child with, it's quite normal to have a couple of children with extra challenging behavior. And just when you think, oh, thank goodness they're going off to school, another one comes in and steps up to that position of king of the castle. But often because they always get the negative behavior and they're the ones in trouble. I mean, we've had children who've been told that, oh yeah, Mason did that, when actually Mason wasn't even at school today, but he gets accused of everything. And so these children, because they're constantly hurting the children, hurting their friends, or doing undesirable behavior, what you find is that they actually get very little positive reinforcement during the day, because when they're kind of doing something and maybe they're playing by themselves for a while, teachers are scared to comment or say anything because, oh, we might jinx it, or let's leave him alone because he's actually been playing really nicely by himself. So it's really important that every child gets a balance of positive attention during the day. And so often as teachers, we have to make a concerted effort to give that child positive attention. So teachers are with the same child day in, day out. So often it's the relievers who are that positive reinforcement for that child, and children thrive on positive attention. So it's really great when you go into a centre and you can see that a child he's not making the right choices. If you then see that he does make positive choices through the day, if you just say to him, oh, that was amazing, that was so good to see you helped little Chloe wash her hands today, or you let her go in the front of the line, it's reiterating that positive to try and give him more of a balance. And again, as teachers and relievers, we need to look for solutions together. So give options and think creatively with regards to distraction techniques and way to engage children. So in other words, talk to each other. Many brains all together can help us. And ask for help from your centre managers or your colleagues. Never be afraid to ask for help. So we're on to our questions. Where do I start? At the top?
No, start at the top.
Start at the top.
Yeah.
Okay. So sometimes children take relievers teachers for granted because they are not regular. What to do with this behavior? That is very, very true. We know it's not just relievers. Oh, why'd you make me big again? It's not just relievers. It's anybody new within the centre. So again, it's not because you as relievers are doing anything wrong. It's just because they don't have the trust and they're testing their boundaries. So at any time, if you're struggling, go to speak to one of the teachers. Go and say, look, I'm really struggling with Joseph. What positive guidance strategies do you use? Or would you like to swap with me, because I'd really like you to take over and I can watch to see how he listens to you. We had a particular child who a reliever had been relieving at the centre for about 3 weeks, and then she somehow got a child vomited on her, so she was given a centre shirt. One of the teachers had a spare centre shirt, and she put on her centre shirt, and the child says, oh, you're wearing that shirt now, I'll listen to you now that you're wearing that shirt. And he turned overnight because she was wearing that shirt. So I suggest wearing your name badges. Maybe he'll recognize that, maybe they'll recognize the little boy and girl, and then that will be your way of explaining to them that I'm also part of the centre, because look, I've got the little boy and girl on my badge. So another question is, when a child is displaying challenging behaviour and when teachers try to stop hitting, kicking, spitting, digging their nails into you to hurt, can the teacher hold the child's hands or legs to stop getting hurt herself? My biggest issue around that is keeping yourself safe. It's not okay that a child is hitting, kicking, spitting. My best advice in this situation would be let the child go. So when I say let him go, don't hold him. If all the children are inside and he's outside, let him go. Stand, supervise him, make sure he's not alone, but let him run around the playground. As long as he's not hurting himself or the other children, it's the better way to keep him safe, because if you're holding him, it's just going to make him thrash around more, and you've run the risk of him then accusing you of hurting him. So again, my message to everybody is by keeping yourself safe. So often we've had situations where a child's been running around outside and he's hurting everybody. He's just punching, kicking, you name it. All the children have had to come inside and he's been left outside. The sooner he's left alone, usually the quicker he will calm down. And yes, I suppose some of you might be thinking, but it's a beautiful day and how can that be fair on the 30 other children within the room? It's about keeping us safe. And that's the priority. So if everybody's outside and he wants to thrash around, as long as a teacher is observing him, let him go for it. And I wouldn't suggest the teacher stands and watches him so that he's still got an audience. She can stand on the side, look at him out of her side view, and then make sure she's still supervising the other children. But it's definitely, I wouldn't advise holding a child because you do run into many risks. What if the child is, that's the Morning Kai one. Are there any more questions? Do I?
Yeah, you have to scroll from your side.
Oh, I was hoping that Adam would do it for me. How to use positive guidance when a child has unacceptable behaviour, such as barting his or her friends really hard. So I think we might have answered that question, just regards to making sure that we talk to the child and again understand what's happening at home. So again, different strategies, find out from your centre what they're doing to support. Barting is very difficult. Barting for your babies and toddlers is normal. It's an age and stage, and some older children it could be an age and stage, but it's important to find out what a child who is a barter will often have. One of those RDPs I was talking to you about, an individual development plan, depends on the child. So sometimes shadowing works. Sometimes you can be shadowing a child and holding his hand and he can still lean out and bart a child. Another way of doing it, and again, it depends on the centre. We use this for one of our children at one of my centres. Instead of shadowing him, we had a code name for him. So his pretend name was Elvis. So there was 48 children in the space and 5 teachers. So he didn't know his name was Elvis, his code name. That was our name that the teachers knew. So when he was inside, we would say Elvis to our teachers outside. Okay, Elvis is on stage, and all the inside teachers would know where he was to make sure that the children were kept safe and he wasn't being followed because he felt intimidated when we followed him. And the outside teachers would then be able to have a bit of downtime because they would know that Elvis was inside. As soon as Elvis went outside, one of the inside teachers would say to the outside teachers, Elvis has left the building, guys. And they would then know that they had to keep an extra eye on where he was. And it meant the inside teachers could carry on with what they were doing. That's the kind of child with extreme behavior who wherever he goes, the behavior changes of all the children around him. So there's different strategies that your centres would hopefully have for children like that. So there's another question. What about when a child hits another child and the child tries to run away? When you try and talk to him, what do I do? So I think we talked about that with regards to let him go. Let him go, and you just say to him, I'd like, once he's calmed down, you go up to him and just sit next to him. And he'll be like, oh, what's she sitting next to me? And in a way, you kind of think, oh, now you're all unhappy, but you've really hurt a child over there. That's okay. You know, that's just how children work. We haven't lost the battle, for want of another word, if a child doesn't seem to show remorse. There's lots and lots of articles, and if anyone wants me to share them, around what age and stage a child understands empathy. And that's really, really important. And there's no actual age that I can say at the age of 3 a child understands empathy. The readings all say that if they've been shown empathy at home from a young age, as young as an infant, they will understand empathy because they've been shown it. But if they've been brought up in an environment at home where they have been shown no empathy for 2 or 3 years of their life, it will take them another 2 or 3 years to understand what empathy is. So again, it's trying to make a child, a 2-year-old, say sorry. Who's that for? Is that for us or is that for them? So it's thinking about what we want to gain out of it, but waiting until they are calm and they're ready to talk. And they will. If they've got the power, they'll be ready to talk. And you can even say to them, should we call, maybe George has just bitten Jeremy. You say to George, once he's calm, George, should we get Jeremy to come over here and talk to us, or do you want to go and sit over there and talk to him? Again, he'll think, oh, okay, I'm in control here. Yep, get him to come over here. And then chances are he's more likely to say sorry because he's in control. Is that it?
No, back up the top.
Oh, okay, sorry, going back up the top. Okay. What should we do if they keep coming, hitting and running? Then also we should not hold them. So if they keep coming to you and hitting you, chances are, if you've just go to the second question. Oh yeah, that's the same thing. So chances are, if you've left them alone, they're not going to come back and hit you. If you're holding them, they're going to try and hit you. But if you've left them alone, and as a reliever, I would be very careful to be holding any child. I would leave that up to the centre manager or the head teacher or the assistant manager. So they'll have, in their positive guidance procedure, they will have that. But really, as a reliever, I strongly suggest not to hold any child. Don't put yourself in that predicament, because you haven't got the relationship with those children that the permanent teachers will have. So keep yourself safe. Is that it?
And Varshish Samat, just towards the top again there.
Oh, sorry. There's a child who is 4.5, and when he gets upset or if anyone says no, he starts throwing things. Since he is a big boy, it's hard to control him. What to do in this case? So I presume he hasn't got any additional needs. So at 4.5, you should really understand that it's not okay to throw things. So in this situation, I would talk to him. I would say to him, it's not okay to throw it. And if you're going to, again, give him the choice. If you're going to carry on throwing the blocks, either I'm going to ask you to move outside, or me and your friends are all going to move away to go and engage in something else. And soon he'll realize, oh, actually, it's not fun anymore if nobody's here. But again, giving him those choices. You've got two choices. You can be the boss and make your own mind up here. If you want to throw things, we've got those new balls outside, and it's quite hard to be positive when a child's done something that's not desirable, especially if he's thrown a block and hurts another child. So I'll strongly recommend that if something happens like that, try and be positive. As much as you don't want to be positive, just try and be positive and say, hey, I can see you really want to throw those blocks. Let's go outside, use the basketball hoop and shoot some hoops. Or we can build a tower. Which one would you like to do? If he continues to throw the blocks, then short of physically moving him, you said he's a strong boy, you don't want to be moving him anyway. He obviously is reluctant to move. You then say, okay, then me and your friends are going to go and sit over here, and you call us back when you're ready to play with us. Again, I can guarantee you that he'll soon lose interest and realize it's not okay, especially at that age. Just looking for more questions. No, I think I'm good.
Yeah, covered that one for a minute. If there's a second question, what should we do if the child keeps coming back, hitting and running? And also, we should not hold them. Yeah, no, you've covered that one.
But if he goes, sometimes using the word stop can change behavior. Yep, so someone's commented sometimes using the word stop can change the behavior, and very much so. Sometimes just that one word, stop it, I don't like it. That's why we teach children. And in fact, there's some 8 and 9-year-olds who I saw the other day, and they said, I remember you from preschool, and I still say stop it, I don't like it. So, it does stick. So very much so, stopping them in the tracks.
I'm back. How are you all going? And as a matter of fact, my daughter, who went to a BestStart Centre for 4 years and is now 8 years old, still use stop, I don't like it, and stop it, leave me alone. So it definitely carries through, which is awesome. Okay, unless there's any other questions that pops out, that is us for this evening. Thank you all so much. Oh, we suddenly had a few jump up.
If the child is not listening to you and ignoring you all the time, what should you do? So can you just comment, is the child old? Is the child actually ignoring you? Or so are they a preschool child? So you ask them to do something and they're not listening. I would then ask for help and make sure you then listen to what the teacher is and how the teacher's engaging that child. Go to the teacher and say, look, I've noticed Jeremy, every time I ask Jeremy to do something, he completely ignores me. What strategy do you use? Again, give them choices. So I'm not sure if you are giving them choices. So it's a preschool child, the question, yeah. So they very much understand what they should and shouldn't be doing. They will build a relationship with you, and I'm afraid it's just, that's all it is. It's making sure you engage as a reliever, get in there, engage, have fun. It's building the trust. It's that whole trust bucket that we talk about. You've got to make sure that you build with build the trust with children. Some children are very fickle and they'll love you the minute you walk in the door. They're your best friend and they want to be your mate, and then you'll always have those other children who try and make your life difficult. So those children, it's important that you ask for support and help. And is it possible that relievers can be introduced to the kids by the registered teachers, because it really makes a huge difference? I would love that relievers should be introduced by by qualified teachers or even permanent teachers, and this should really be happening. So feel free, you know, we obviously can't get up to all centre managers, but feel free to say when you arrive on your first day and you've met everybody and you've been inducted, feel free to say, would you mind taking me around to introduce me to the children, or at morning mat time, welcome me to the mat, because that's best practice. And before everybody does go, I'd just like to say thank you so much for all your work that you do. Without relievers, we'd have some centres that would have to close on some days. You guys are really amazing, and it's not an easy job going in and being the stranger, you know, for the first time and introducing yourself to all the adults and children. But thank you from the bottom of my heart. We really appreciate it.
Awesome, and thank you all again for coming tonight. I'm going to do much better in making sure that the replay video gets out faster this time. It turns out that I'm the one who has to edit it, and that's okay. I know that now. So I will hope to have that done by Friday, and then I will send out both the link, the readings that Nicole will include, and the PowerPoint slides as well. I know a few of you have requested that, so that will come through too. So thank you all for coming tonight. We've had 66 people tonight, so we beat last time. Great. That's the goal. Next time, let's go for 100. That might be too many, but we'll try anyway. So the next one is going to be in late November. I will have the date for that on Friday when I send through the video. And again, thank you all for coming. Have a great night.
Thank you.